Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another video. Welcome to the channel, Just Reactions TV. And we are going to be watching some clips on TikTok about the cost of living in America because everybody's in a different situation. Everybody has a different opinion.
Cost of living is so bad in America that the landlords are so out of touch with reality and what's really going on in America that they're still asking you for 3 times the rent. If I made 3 times the rent, I would not be applying to rent a place. I would be applying for an actual house, right? Keep it up. The cost of living is so bad in America that your credit score trumps even your income. Even if you make good income, those who know, you know. Your credit score is bad, that's not going to get you nowhere. You got to have good credit and good income.
All right, so I agree to disagree on some things. Okay, first and foremost, 3 times the rent, that is type ridiculous. You know what I mean? But at the same token, if you're paying 3 times the rent, that doesn't mean that you are necessarily going to be able to afford your own house, because the difference, I shouldn't have to explain it, but I'm going to anyway. The difference between owning a crib or a house versus renting is a big difference. When you're renting, anything that's within that house is not your responsibility. So if you're paying, just say, $2,500 a month, that's the typical price range around where I'm at. I live in New York, not New York City. Let's get that clear, because I know, there's been a lot of, things about people that live in New York City. If you're not from the city, you're from upstate. New York is New York. That's just my opinion. But anyway, back to what I was saying. If you're paying $2,500 a month, you see what I'm saying? That's all you're paying on top of your utilities. So let's just say, with everything included, you're paying $3,000 a month. Yes, that is a lot of money. Yes, I get it. But at the same token, when you buy your own house, imagine your boiler going out, your hot water tank going out, your plumbing is messed up. Those are not hundreds of dollars like utilities a month. Though, that's not a couple $100 job. Maybe if you want to put in a new toilet, yes. But if your plumbing fails or whatever, you see what I'm saying? One of the pipes inside your wall bursts, we're talking about thousands of dollars. You see what I'm saying? So even if your mortgage, if you own a crib and your mortgage is like, just say, $3,000, you know what I mean? Well, when that pipe bursts, you got to have an extra $3,000 to pay that plumbing. You know what I mean? Faulty wiring, old wiring in your house, you got to have that money to pay the electrician. And they're typically more expensive than a plumber. So it's a give and take. It's a pro and con to renting and owning. Just because you're paying 3 times the rent to get in the place, it don't mean you can necessarily afford your own house or afford to buy your own house. Not to mention your mortgage goes up like rent anyways.
Cost of living is so bad that some people have no choice but to live in a hotel or even live in a shelter because of credit, because they can't afford anything else, because everything is out of their price range.
That's a fact.
It's that's a fact. The cost of living is so bad that when we are applying to places to live, we're spending hundreds, almost $200 to $300 on application fees for places that we don't even know if we're gonna get, because there's obviously no guarantee, because they still gotta run your background.
We shouldn't have to pay that.
The cost of living is so bad in America that most of us don't even live where our jobs are at, because typically wherever your job is at is way too expensive for you to be able to afford to live in the same area of your job. Some of us, not all of us, but if you know, you know.
Yes, that is true in some cases, but also it could be where you live. You see what I'm saying? I'm assuming, judging by where the back of her car, I think she's probably living in her V or whatever the case may be. But if she is, who cares? You got to do what you got to do to survive. But also, it depends on where you live. She might live in a big city. You see what I'm saying? To where, matter of fact, I don't think she lives in a big city. You know what I mean? Because the fact that she says some people got to travel, that's because where you live in that don't even have jobs. Like, they're not offering jobs. It might not be a place that has a lot of jobs. And if they do have jobs, she lives in She could live in a small town to where everybody holds that job down for like basically their career, a warehouse job. You see what I'm saying? People probably they typically stay there until they pretty much retire because that's the only job, decent job that's in that town. So you know what I mean? And yes, some people do travel to go to different places because like where I live, you see what I'm saying? Again, people travel to New York City to make more money, but it defeats the purpose because when you travel to New York City, you're paying New York City taxes. We have a different tax. That's why people in New York City think they're different than everybody else in New York State. Not just the culture, not just, you know what I mean? It's because they have their own taxes. You see what I'm saying? So if you're living where I live and you're working in New York City, you're paying New York City taxes, which is typically higher than the taxes throughout anywhere else in New York State, which defeats the purpose for even traveling out there. That's my personal opinion. I don't work in the city, so therefore I don't know how it really goes, but that's just my logical thinking.
The cost of living is so bad in America that you have to split up your rent payments into 2 payments per month because it's too much to pay all at once. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, you might save a little bit more money doing that because, you know, it's a good financial decision. But, you know, sometimes some bills you just want to get them out the way. Okay, it's due at the first of the month, from the 1st to the 5th or whatever. You want to get that shit out the way and worry about the other bills. So that's not necessarily a bad thing, but I would prefer it. What do y'all think?
All right, so I don't understand what she meant by splitting the rent up in 2 between the 1st and the 15th. I mean, I kind of get it, but I kind of don't because it's like, again, if your rent is $2,500 a month, you see what I'm saying? But yet you're working at a job where every week you're making just say $500, $600. How are you splitting up that $2,500? Isn't that like that's $1,250? You see what I'm saying? 12. You're not making $1,250 a week. So therefore, if you split it up in 2, you're still going to be behind, or you're still going to be behind. You know what I mean? And some people, some landlords, they hit you with like a $30 late fee for each day that is late. So I mean, I don't know. Maybe where she lives is a little different. Maybe I'm just misunderstanding, which I'm probably misunderstanding. You see what I'm saying? But yeah. So I don't really understand what she meant by that.
How are people holding up in this economy? Because the economy right now is bizarre. It's trash right now, garbage. I don't know if it's the dope, I don't know what it is. How there's not an uproar about this. Everyone's just taking it easy. And if they do have jobs, the jobs don't pay. How are you guys surviving on $7 an hour, $12 an hour, $11 an, especially in the South? Let's not even talk about the cities. How are people getting by? The credit card rates must be through the roof. This is why I'm a huge supporter for Medicare for all, child care for all, raising the minimum wage. Forget raising the minimum wage to $15 an hour. It needs to be at least $25 an hour. Except.
All right, I'm a time out. All right, so I get what he is saying. You know what I mean? But there's a problem with that. All right, so let's go back what he said about how are people surviving off of $7 an hour, $11 an hour, stuff like that. First and foremost, I live in the North. You see what I'm saying? I have no idea where they are paying $7 an hour for minimum wage at. Maybe down south. I'm not there. You see what I'm saying? So, if that's the case, that's crazy. That's crazy. But for the most part, man, a lot of people, they have side hustles. There's a reason why the government is trying to tap into that Cash App, and they want us to report all that extra money that we make on the side. You see what I'm saying? Because they know, the government knows what we're doing. Uncle Sam, that's what I'm gonna call him. I'm gonna call him Uncle Sam. He knows what we're doing. He knows how we, making it, how we surviving and stuff like that. Even though people may say that, oh, they're out of touch. No, they're not. The numbers don't add up. We're making everything sky high, but yet people are still doing their thing. How they doing that? They know. You know what I mean? You got to keep in mind when you graduate schools and stuff like that, you go to trade schools, you graduate college and all that. Your name, your number in the system when you do that, so they know. Anyway, I don't want to be long-winded on this, so I'm gonna move on to the next thing. He said he's an advocate for Medicare and all that. You know, Medicaid, Medicare, what, regardless. You know, minimum wage $15 an hour. It should be $25 an hour. Like a lot of people is gonna agree on that. A lot of people will agree on that. Except the thing is, when you do things like that, it makes the taxes go up because we are the ones that's paying that Medicaid right now. The Medicaid, Medicare, whatever. We're paying that. That's what our taxes go towards. So if you know what I mean, we made free. It's like England. They have free, and I think Canada too, but they have free Medicaid, Medicare, and all that. But at the same token, they don't have a regulated tax. Like their taxes is higher than ours. Just put it that way. It's higher than ours. So that's one thing. And two, no job is gonna be able to afford to pay all its workers $25 an hour. It's as simple as that. I don't know. People, listen, y'all can agree to disagree, but we already seen that in Seattle, Washington. You see what I'm saying? You know how many businesses shut down because Seattle raised their minimum wage to $20 an hour, and we all should know that Seattle is not a cheap city. You know what I mean? Yes, there is a lot of tradesmen out there, a lot of people that's making six figures a year, but they still couldn't afford to pay their workers $20 an hour. That's why a lot of these businesses out there shut down. So I hear where he's coming from, but I don't think it's gonna work. Next.
For small businesses. But those major corporations, you could pay at least $25 an hour. You can't say, oh, it's going to cause the economy to crash. But at the same time, prices and everything is going up. Wages remain stagnant. The federal minimum wage is still $7.25 an hour. Like, I just don't understand why people don't cause an uproar about this, or is upset or angry. I'm going to be honest. Everyone cannot be celebrities. Everyone can't be entrepreneurs. You need consumers, right? Is it gatekeeping? People don't want people in certain industries. They're keeping certain people out. Because I'm just sitting here and I'm thinking, I had to take a little break. And I'm just here thinking, like, what is really going on? People are suffering. People are working 2-3 jobs because they're minimum wage jobs. Life happens, people. I'm not judging no one out here in these streets. Life happens. Life happens. You could be up today and down tomorrow. I ain't judging no one, especially people who are trying to better their lives each and every day. But here, create more affordable housing. Create government supermarkets to compete with the private supermarkets. It's all about competition, right? Make universities more affordable. If you don't want to give tuition free or college free, make universities more affordable. There's no way public universities should be charging 6 figures for an education.
All right, so that clip is over with. But again, I'm gonna make this one really quick because there's other reels that I want to see. But again, he said everybody can't be entrepreneurs. Everybody can't, this, that, and the third, and all that. Well, first and foremost, any and everybody could be an entrepreneur. You see, the reason why again, I'm not discrediting anything he's saying. I'm just giving my opinion. Anybody could be an entrepreneur, but the reason why people say everybody can't do that is because the type of economy that we live in. We work off the dollars. You see what I'm saying? So, in order for everybody to be an entrepreneur, because listen, Think about it. A long time ago, before there was even money involved, how do you think people was getting around and doing what they, well, not getting around, but how do you think people was able to do what they do? You know, this person over here had, he did cows, had cows, you needed milk or whatever the case may be. This one over here was doing, you know, tomatoes or olives, you know, plums. How would the person with the tomatoes, olive, and plums be able to get that milk if there was no money? You know what it was? It was the barter system. You see what I'm saying? So with the barter system, if we had that still going, you know what I mean? Everybody would be able to be entrepreneurs. You know why? Because everybody would be entrepreneurs. You know what I mean? So that's my take on that. As far as the universities go, that's very selective. You see what I'm saying? Because even in today's economy right now, there's a lot of people that's going to college, they graduate and stuff like that, but yet they can't find a job that they went to school with. So it's just like a reoccurring debt. You see what I'm saying? That's what that is. You know what I mean? You probably get, you know, a couple here and there, twos and fews that will graduate college with a degree and they will enter the field that they went to college for, but that's not the majority. That's not a lot of people. A lot of people, they graduate college with hundreds of $1,000s in debt, and yet they're working at the jobs next to you and I. You know what I mean? Maybe get the manager's position, or they work in the line next to you, or whatever job you have. You see what I'm saying? If you have a, you know, the typical job, no disrespect, you know, we all got to do what we got to do, but I'm just saying, like, if you are working at a business and this person over here is telling you they went to college for this, 4 years for this, 5 years for that, they got a, you know, bachelor's degree and stuff like that, and yet they're working at the not only the same place, but they're in the same position that you're in. Why would you want to go to college? That's just my personal take. But we're gonna move on to the next video, or next reel.
With me as an ER nurse working in Northern California, supporting a family of 4. So after my most recent post about my paychecks, I've gotten a lot of questions. I'm here to answer them for you, okay? Putting down on the paper towel for you. My average pay is $8,780. This is after taxes. We're not talking about before because I don't want to get my feelings.
Quick pause real quick. You already know that she really budgeting. She wrote that joint on a paper towel. She didn't even have a loose leaf piece of paper.
Sir, I don't want to cry. My mortgage payment is $2,868. This is on the very low end. I got very lucky with this. I know people that pay $5,000 and up per month for their mortgage. Daughter's preschool is $750 for 3 days a week. We do not have to do daycare yet, but we will. And daycare averages anywhere from like $1,500 to $2,800 per month. Yeah. Utilities are $300. Gas is $350. That's me crying Northern California tears right there. Our car insurance is $500. Our phone bill is $120. Subscriptions are $150. School loans, I pay $400, which is pretty good. I've seen people pay anywhere from $600, $800 per month. We spend $120 per month on dog food. Before you even ask, I have 2 massive Cane Corsos. They need all that food, and their shits are bigger than mine, okay? Eating out, we spend about $150 per month. Yes, we can do better. Okay, I like food, all right? Gym membership is $75 per month. Yes, I need that. That's my mental health right there, all right? This leaves us with $1,697 on average per month to save, to plan for emergencies, to get anything else we need to get. I did recently accept an ICU position that I have not started with. I'm so excited to take that position, but unfortunately I will be taking a massive pay cut because I'm jumping hospitals. Even though I'm working full time, I will still be making less there. I will have to pick up overtime. But it wasn't about the paychecks for me. It's about all the things I'm gonna get to learn, so I'm excited for that. My husband is also going to be starting nursing school in September. I am so excited to be able to support him through that. He supported me through my entire nursing journey, but we are going to have to start paying for daycare. And remember, I said that can be like $2,000 per month, okay? So I have some things that I need to think about.
All right, well, first and foremost, as you can see the list, she's definitely not an average worker. You know what I mean? Whether she lives in, or she says she lives in Northern California, you know what I mean? It doesn't matter whether you live in Northern California or in New York City, New York State, whatever. Bring it home. I know that nurses get paid every 2 weeks, but still, $87.80. You know what I mean? If you're bringing that shit home every 2 weeks, you're bringing in $4,000. You see what I'm saying? A week. That's damn good money. I mean, I could be wrong. I could be misinterpreting this right here. You know what I mean? But that's damn good money. You're not the average worker. And then you said your husband is going to be going to nursing school too. All right. So I don't know how long you've been doing nursing, but you bringing in a nice chunk of change. And even if your husband, start off, he's probably gonna be bringing in another piece of nice chunk of change. You see what I'm saying? You guys are definitely. I mean, I can't speak for her, but it definitely don't sound like y'all gonna be struggling. You know what I mean? Um, you're listing things that you're not an average person. Let's put it that way. I don't want to speak too long.
This post I made was for new grads and nurses that are working in my area close to the Bay in Northern California, so they know what to expect, so they know what pay they should be accepting for where they are in their journey after spending 6-8 years going to school, studying for their expertise to save lives, to care for people, to care for the underserved population, to care for the most vulnerable population. So I hope I've answered a lot of your questions. I hope that clears things up. As always, happy lifing, happy nursing, all the things.
Right. So again, she's bringing home. I'm not even gonna tell y'all. Y'all should already know my personal. These are my opinions. That's it. But based off of what she, bringing home and stuff like that, it sounds like to me that if, I mean, excuse me, but if that's your way of saying, well, she said budget. She ain't really say nothing about struggling or anything like that, because you're definitely not struggling. If you're paying all that expenses and you still have $1,600 to play with and save, you are not hurting. You are not hurting. A lot of people is working 40, 50, 60, 70, and even 80 hours a week and don't even have nowhere near as much money like that. Nowhere near $1,600 after paying everything to play with, to have to save. A lot of people don't even have $5,000 in the bank to even, have a safe cushion to fall back on if emergencies was to, occur.
Yo, this is not laziness. This is the economy falling apart. A record 25 million adults live with their parents, and roughly 70% of them ages 25 to 34 are employed full time. So that whole they just don't want to work argument is dead. People are working, people have jobs, some got degrees, some work full time, a lot work overtime. And they still can't afford rent, a car note, groceries, and basic everyday life necessities. That means the problem is not motivation. That means that the problem is wages aren't matching up to the cost of living. And then they got the nerve to call people moochers for staying with family when half the time they help them with bills, groceries, and utilities while still trying to save up enough money to leave. And at some point, we really got to sit down and admit that having a job does not mean you can afford to live anymore. So my question is this: how are young folks supposed to build a future when the cost of independence keep moving further and further away?
Yeah, I hear him. You know what I mean? I agree. I mean, it's not it's not us. It's definitely the economy. I mean, I remember some time ago, man. People used to be like, "Oh, pull your bootstraps up or pull yourself up by the bootstraps." And man, that shit don't work anymore. That shit don't work anymore. Like he said, people are working full-time jobs, part-time jobs, and still have a side hustle in between the full-time, part-time job. And the full-time job is paying your rent, your mortgage. The part-time job is paying your car note, your food, your bill, your utilities. And the side hustle is that's just to get brand new socks and underwear. You know what I mean? Like, come on, man. Let's be honest. And he looks pretty young. You know what I mean? So I can imagine how it's gonna be for the generation that's coming, behind him. Like, if the kids is 9 years old, like, what is it gonna look like for them? How is it gonna be for them if we are going through what we're going through right now? It's crazy, and I remember I made a video a while back and I was saying, I don't know if I edited it out or not, but the way things is, yo, again, if you have family and you are on good terms with them, you know what I mean? Take that as a blessing, and I won't say take advantage. I won't say that, but I would definitely say work together on that. Like he said, you know, you have grown adults living with their parents, but they're all coming together paying bills and stuff like that. That ain't no different than the foreigners coming here. Like my neighborhood that I live in right now, we had some Hispanic people that came from Mexico and Honduras, and yo, listen, they were living like what, 7, 8, 9 deep in a 2-bedroom apartment. But at the same token, they split that rent up. Just say if they rent was just $2,000 a month, what's that? $100 a head. You got 8 people in there. You know what I mean? $100 a head, $150 a head. And at the same token, within 1 year, you see them with brand new V's. And they actually worked together and started their own family business, doing gutters, remodeling cribs, porches, all that. That's the type of time and like we need to be on, instead of following suit of what America has brainwashed us to be. You see what I'm saying? By the time you're 18, you got to be up out the crib. Otherwise, you're not a grown man, or you're irresponsible because you can't afford to take care of yourself. You know what I mean? Like, for real, for real. But this is gonna be the last clip right here because I feel like I was being long-winded on this joint, so I pretty much turned a 7-minute video into like a 20-minute, 25-minute video, and I didn't want to do all that. But if you like this video, you know what I mean, do me a favor, man, hit that thumbs up button. In fact, y'all already know what to do because this YouTube ain't new. So I appreciate if you do hit the like button, and don't forget to subscribe and stuff like that. And until next time, man, and just do what you gotta do and survive the best way you can, but stay out of trouble though. Don't get in trouble trying to survive. Don't be doing no things that you ain't supposed to be doing. All right, man, deuces.